Well, yes, less than 20 days to go for the union budget to be presented in the parliament. So let's take a look at the three big numbers that you need to keep an eye out on in this budget. And the first one, of course, has to be capital expenditure, the Capex number that comes up, that the government comes up with. Remember, we've seen a sharp increase in Capex over the last few years from just about 5.9 lakh crore in FY22. It rose to 9.5 lakh crore in FY24. For FY25, the budgeted expenditure for capital expenditure stood at 11.1 lakh crore, but remember the revised estimate was below that at about 10.2 lakh crore, and this was on account of general elections in FY25 and prolonged monsoon, and that is the reason revised expenditure had to be lowered. But let's also talk about how the current year is progressing when it comes to Capex. Now, the budgeted expenditure for this year stood at about 11.2 lakh crore. That's the Capex figure that the government had budgeted for. In the first year, we have already achieved 5.8 lakh crore. Now, as a percentage of the total budgeted expenditure, it stands at 52%, which means that we have seen front loading of capital expenditure in the first half of this year, and hence analysts believe that it will be easy for the government to achieve full year's Capex target for this year, and perhaps it will likely moderate because 52% was already achieved in the first half of FY26. So that's the big number that you need to watch out for. 11.2 lakh crore was the figure in FY26, and the big number that we need to watch out for Capex will be for FY27 now in the budget. Shifting focus to fiscal deficit then, and look at the glide path that we have followed from 6.8% in FY22 to about 5.6% in FY24. Now the revised estimate for FY25, remember, stood at 4.8%, but we were able to achieve at 4.7%. That's also lower than what we had budgeted and the revised estimate suggested. So clearly fiscal deficit is one thing that we have taken note of, and we have clearly controlled fiscal deficit big time. Let's also talk about the FY26 figure. Now, in Union Budget 2025, Nirmala Sitharaman had set a target of 4.4% as a percentage of GDP. That's the fiscal deficit number for you. In the first half of FY26, though, on account of lower GST collections, on account of lower income tax collections, remember fiscal deficit has increased by about 21% on a year-on-year basis. But in H2, in order to achieve the 4.4% target, analysts believe that tax revenue should increase by as much as 30% on a year-on-year basis to be able to meet this target. So that's the fiscal deficit number for you, 4.4% in FY26, and let's keep an eye out on where this number stands in FY27. Next up, let's talk about the divestment trends. Now, remember clearly we have not achieved our divestment target for the last few years. In FY22, we had budgeted an estimate of about 1.75 lakh crore rupees, and we had only achieved 9% of the total target. We only raised about 78,000 crore via divestment. And this is not just the case for FY22, whether it's FY23, FY24 and the following years, the trend has only continued. We achieved about 48% of our divestment target in FY23, about 29% target in FY24, and so is the case for FY25 as well at about 20.3%. Let's talk about FY26 now. We have several divestment plans which are currently underway, something like Bharat Coking Coal IPO. But even with that, estimates suggest that so far, government has been able to achieve only 16% of the total divestment target of 47,000 crore that the government had set for FY26. So this is also one figure that we need to keep an eye out on, although we have miserably failed at achieving our divestment target over the last few years. So Capex, divestment, and fiscal deficit, the three key numbers that you need to keep your eye out on.
Right. Okay, Ashesha, thanks for that analysis. That's